So which is better, a septic system or a sewer system? People ask me this all the time, and we've gone to the experts, tried to get some information that we want to share with you on this shitty subject. So stand by, and we're going to do a little test at the end. You might be interested to know what toilet papers are best too for your system. All right, don't go away. We're getting started right now. Hey, welcome back. It's David Cathers. Glad you're here. And what would be the difference between sewer and having septic? Get that question all the time. People want to know, well, is one better than the other? Hey, so what is the big difference here with sewer or septic? Why would you have one or the other? Generally around at least in our area here in this state, around the city areas, generally is where you'll find the sewers. Most of the outlying suburban areas, rural areas will have a septic. Now some people say, well, what's good about having sewer? Well, it's directly lined up, takes the stuff away from you and down through the city and to some waste station where it is filtered and taken care of there. So nice in that respect. What happens? Well, you're billed each month. So there's one more expense that you've got to pay each month for having that sewer hooked up and having it take away all your waste product. The other side is too with having that is that when costs go up in the cities and the businesses there get new budgets and need more money, they're going to raise your bill. So there's an upgrowing constant bill that could be raised and more cost for you each month. So some things to think about there. Sometimes too, if you have a line that breaks between the house and the city, have to decide who's covering it. Usually if it's out on the sidewalk, and then from there to your house is generally an expense you've got to get. If it's out under the city street, generally, it could be the city's, but you need to check that for your area before you buy. Find out what kind of coverage you get and whose responsibility is it. Is it the city? Is it a county challenge? So things to look at there. What about septic? Septic, people say, oh my gosh, I don't want all that to worry about or how often I have to pump. Well, septic basically is a system that's usually on your property, generally made up of, say, a tank that will take the flow of everything with another chamber, another tank, basically the sludge and the gunk and the poop and the paper and all, and get separated out and put into one tank. That'll be something that'll be pumped later. The other rolls over into another tank and then drained if it's higher, built to where they call a gravity system. It'll flow with no pumps, goes to a lower point, and then all the other sedatives and the water and things that are filtered out will drain out into what we call a drain field. And so that basically, if you'll look at the drawing, will show you have your tank, you have it separated over here and then off to the drain field, and usually in an area of some nice soft soils, usually some sand layers for this to filter through. So what happens when you throw something down in the toilet or you throw something in your sink and it goes into this tank? Well, some things you want to think about too are not putting the greases and other things that will break down some of the bacteria. What happens is that those tanks separate the bacteria from the waste, actually feeds and will help eliminate things, separate stuff, and works as its own to help ecologically take care of the byproducts there. Now, you get some other challenges. What goes is people say, well, I got to have paper that works. And so what do we do in there? Or the other thing people will worry about is, well, how often do I have to pump it? Well, depending on how large your family is. I mean, my wife and I, just being the two of us in the home, it's been a good 6-7 years since we've had to pump anything. I mean, there's just so much wastewater that we're sending and showers and so forth. It goes. You have a family of 3 or 4 kids and a lot of showers going, a lot of people using the bathroom. It could take just every couple years. So your expense though is only going to be the pumping, which could be $200 to $300, might be $400 or $500, just depending on how big your tank is and how much waste has to be pulled away. So, and again, if you did that over, say, every 5 years or so, then you know, the expense is much less than dealing with the sewer. One of the other things, though, we want to take a look at, challenges. Some people say, well, you know, I got to get the right paper. You know, everybody's saying you got all these great papers, and what do you do? Because some of those papers, you know, it can plug things up, and if it's a sewer system, you got to bring somebody in to route it out, or you call your septic guy out to clean the thing out. Well, let's find out what goes on. You know, everybody will say, oh, I can put that Ridex in there. No, 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 no. The reports all show the Ridex actually can damage your system by taking away some of that bacteria that you need to actually feed and help disintegrate things away. So please don't use those products there. Check with your septic design people too to see if there's anything they recommend. But generally it's just getting the thing pumped and keeping from getting too much clogged up with the wrong papers. So let's bring up that as a thing. I got some here today. Everybody says, oh, we've got all these ways to, all these great papers. So how many of you have seen the dancing bear here, Charmin, you know? Let me see if I can get this back a little bit here, but you know, we've got the dancing bear, Charmin, oh boy, it's ultra soft and all that stuff, but have you ever noticed how thick this stuff is? So, you know, it's got quite a bit of cushion to it here. Then we've got Scott's, and we're going to just try this little experiment that they say is if you want to know if the toilet paper is good or if it's going to clog your system, then what you can do is take that piece of paper and take 3 or 4, 5 sheets, kind of like what you're probably going to do when you go. Stick that in the water here, and then let's just shake it up. This is kind of what it's going to go through to go out the toilet and into your sewer system. And what you want to see is that stuff disintegrates. Well, if you take a look at this, here's your Charmin. Look at how much of that is still left there. It's not such a good deal. Something like that's going to plug up. Let's take a look at this other one we get here from Costco. And buying this stuff, Marathon, we'll take our 4 or 5 sheets. Let's drop that in our little bucket of water. Consider our toilet bowl. And it's going through the system, flushed out. Hey, look at that. It's just, it's pretty well disintegrated. You can see it's just a little bit of fine shavings there. Pretty well gone away. So that one's kind of a nice one. Let's see what happens with the Scott here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll drop that in. Got all these pre-made waters here. I know, crazy excited. You remember the Bill Nye the Science Guy. But let's see what Scott tissue does. Let it go through the system here. Hey, this one's looking pretty good. Look at that. Finer yet. I mean, it's just like a powder, like a milk. The water's really nice. So it looks like Scott might be a good one. Let's try one other, because sometimes they say, oh, I want to be biodegradable and earth-friendly, and I want to use recycled paper. So let's see what this recycled paper is going to do, all right? So we'll take and find a little thing here. Get 3 or 4 or 5 sheets. And into our bucket of water. Seal that puppy up, shake it around. Crazy things we do to find out if it's the right toilet paper. Well, it looks like that recycled one did a little better, but it still has some chunks to it. So might want to consider looking for something. It looks like the test we got here, Charmin really had big, huge wads in here. I mean, you can see this is still pretty much together. Your Scott wasn't too bad. You know, it had a little bit of a murky system to it here, but pretty much destroyed it. So looks like Scott's winning, and the Costco brand Marathon is a good one to have. So they're going to disintegrate. Your Charmin kind of didn't pass the test too well. It looks like it stayed in clumps. What does that mean? Going to be more to get out of your system there. Chances to plugging things up, having to go flush the system through a little more often. And the other side, when you go to pump, you got more stuff to pull out, more junk. It'll fill quicker because the stuff won't disintegrate and feed its way out to the drain field. So think about that. Crazy little things. I know it's simple. It's funny. I've tried to connect us here in the bottom. We're going to have a link to the county. Has a great health department, has some information on septic systems that we can make available to you. So hope this helps. Get a little idea, but go out, find that right toilet paper, see the one that's going to disintegrate, and see how it's going to go to keep your system lasting longer. All right, take care. See you next time.